Hi everybody, welcome to the Manifold channel. Today we're going to use the free Manifold viewer to do something useful. We're going to take a database that we downloaded from the internet and we're going to use it to create a drawing of Neolithic monuments that we might want to visit in France. Let's click File, Import, and we're going to import this Access MDB database, which is called megalith.mdb. Click File, Import, and it imports. This is a table created by an enthusiast in France which lists all the various different Neolithic monuments that exist in France. And we're looking for the ones called dolmen. By the way, to import MDB files, Microsoft is making it increasingly harder to work with legacy formats like MDB. We have to install the so-called Access Database Engine on our computer systems for Manifold to be able to work with it. Install Access Database Engine, which can be easily downloaded from the Manifold website, and everything works cool, works super, which is what we've done here. We're using the free viewer, which is a read-only version of Manifold System Release 9. It'll do everything that 9 can do except that it's read-only. So it's great for applications like this. It's perfectly free. You don't have to register. There's no advertising. It doesn't nag you for donations. It doesn't try to upsell you to anything commercial. It's just free software in the old style, so you can just download it and use it for however long you like. It doesn't time out for free. Anyway, we want to find all the ones that are dolmens. And what is a dolmen? A dolmen looks like this. I'm going to pop up in a window that I have in a different application here. A dolmen this is a chest-high dolmen. It's a couple of vertical rocks with a big capstone that was typically created 4,000 to 6,000 years ago. A big dolmen looks like this. This is one that you can actually walk under. These capstones here are many, many tons in size. They were dragged here typically from quarries 100 to 200 kilometers away. This is a big dolmen near Tours. So let's close that, and let's find all the dolmen that are in this table. And to find all the dolmen, we're going to use the Select panel of the Contents pane. We're going to use the Text Contains template. So we're going to find all the records where the common field text contains the word D-O-L-M-E-N. Manifold will preview the ones that it finds in blue color. To actually find all the ones, to select all the ones, if we like what we see in the preview, we can click Replace Selection. And now we've selected all the records which have dolmen in their name. And let's copy those, Edit, Copy, so that here in the project pane we can paste them as a new table. Let's call that table dolmen table. There. Let's close this one here and let's click open that one there. And here are all the dolmen in a new table. And the next thing we want to do is we want to create a geometry field here so that we can use these as a map. And to create a geometry field is easy. We click Edit Schema to edit the table schema and click Add New Field. Let's call that field Geom, short for geometry field, so we know what it is. And the type of that field, of all the many different types that Manifold knows, let's choose Geom. There it is. Manifold knows that a Geom field has a coordinate system because it's geometry, and in this case we're going to choose latitude and longitude from one of the pre-selects because we're using latitude and longitude coordinates. Click OK. Manifold creates the Geom field. Click Save Changes, and there it appears in the table. Let's now populate that Geom field with geometry. We're going to use the Transform field, Transform template for that. And here in the Transform panel, we want to set the target field to Geom. That's the field we want to work with. And we'll use this template here, Compose Point. And we will use the longitude field as the X-coordinate, the latitude field as the Y-coordinate. Click Update Field, and we're done. We've just populated that with geometry. We can now create a drawing from this dolmen table. Right-click on it, choose Create Drawing, Create New Drawing. And let's use the name dolmen. And Manifold knows we want to use a geometry field. It knows to create a spatial index, and it knows we want to use latitude and longitude. So let's click Create Drawing, and there, we've just created a drawing. Double-click on that to open it, and we see a drawing of all the different dolmen that are in France as dots in latitude and longitude projection. You can see this kind of stretched widthwise that's characteristic of latitude and longitude presentation and projection in the latitude of France. Let's do something more interesting. Let's create a map so we can see this in context. Click Create New Map. And now let's open that. A map in Manifold is just a container. It's like a frame into which we can drop layers. And in this case, let's create an interesting layer. File, Create, New Favorite Data Source. We'll use one of these pre-built ones here, which Manifold provides, so you can do one click. Cool stuff. And we'll drag and drop that into here. And what we've done is we've just created a Bing Street Map layer, which is brought in from the Bing server, from the Microsoft Bing server. I've dragged and dropped that into the map as the bottom layer. Now let's drag and drop the dolmen layer into that. And I can right-click and drag here to Zoom Box. And you can see how all the dolmen are located inside France. Now, what's cool about Manifold is that we can see that the map is in pseudo-Mercator, which is what Bing is in, and the map is in pseudo-Mercator. The dolmen layer is actually in latitude and longitude. And what a map can do in Manifold is any layer that you drop into it, if it doesn't use the projection that the map uses, that layer will be automatically reprojected on the fly into the map so that everything lines up in the map. The dolmen component here has only about 3,200 records in it. That's a lot of dolmen, but that's only 3,200 records. It could have millions of records, and Manifold would still reproject it on the fly extremely quickly. Just like that. And we can pan and zoom, and everything works perfectly. So, what we're really interested in here, however, is not just any old dolmen. We just don't want to go traveling around France and visit a spot that could be a pile of rocks. We want to visit the really big, really cool dolmen. We want to see the dolmen kind of like this guy here. And to find all those, I've worked with this data set before, and I know that the guy who created this data set, he's an enthusiast in France, coded the how cool each dolmen is with this little plus sign here. So if it's a +3 or +4, it's a really cool dolmen. And the ones with the *5 are the biggest. So we want to find every record where there's a *5 in the name. To do that, we're going to use the select panel again. And once more, the text contains template. We're going to change the field here to name. So we want to find where the text, with the name field, the text contains an *5, like that. And that'll find all those. Let's click Replace Selection. Once more, let's edit Copy to copy all the ones that are selected. Here in the project pane, once more, let's paste, create yet another table. And we'll call this table Big Dolmen Table. And if we open that Big Dolmen table, we can see that it already has a geom field because it's been copied and pasted out of the dolmen table where we added the geom field. So we can create a drawing right away from this. Let's choose, right-click on that and choose Create, New Drawing. And let's call that new drawing Big Dolmen. So far, so good. Click Create Drawing. And let's open that. Let's now drag and drop that drawing into the map. Big Dolmen drawing to the map. And I'll double-click this dolmen layer to turn that off. So we can now see the big dolmen layer. We can see those gray dots there in default formatting. Let's improve the formatting using the Style pane. And I'm going to make those the fill color for those points bright green. I'm going to make the size of those 12 points so you can see they get bigger instantly. And let's change the symbology for that to, let's change it to square like that. There. Now we can see those big dolmen. If we want to turn the small dolmen layer back on, we can, or we can turn it back off. Let's zoom into these big dolmen right here, these two right here, to see where they are. And you can see these are located in the valley of the Loire, about halfway between Angers and Saumur. Saumur is where the famous fortress is that was one of the inspirations for Disneyland. And these are just here downstream from Tours. So let's zoom into this one a little bit to see where that's actually located. And if we want to see what the physical landscape is, what we can do is we can create a data source here that is a satellite layer. And to do that, I think I'll use the New Data Source dialog instead of using one of the pre-built ones. Let's call this, well, let's choose an image server data source layer. Manifold has zillions of different types of data sources, all the various databases, endless numbers of formats. And here, ArcGIS REST servers, WFS, WMS, all that stuff. We're going to use an image server, and of the many image servers that Manifold knows by default, one of them is, here's the Google Maps satellite. Let's use that one. And let's call this data source GSAT. Let's give it a name so we know what we created. So you can create a data source that way if you don't want to use one of the presets. And let's drag and drop that layer into the map here. And that'll drag and drop a Google satellite, photographic satellite layer. So now I can zoom further in if we're actually hunting for dolmen, if we're driving through this area. And we can see this is a pretty big dolmen. This is one that's got 3 capstones. It's a sufficiently large dolmen. You can see here are cars here that are parked. So it's much bigger than a car. This is each one of these cap rocks is about as big as that car. If we want to see what the actual dolmen is here, we can alt-click onto the square there to see the attributes for that point. And we can see this one is called the Dolmen de la Pierre Couverte de la Madeleine. Apologies for my poor French accent. And I can right-click on this and choose Edit to see a paragraph length one. If you speak French, you know this is c'est très imposant. This is a very imposing dolmen that was at one time used as a boulangerie, as a bakery. So with these bigger dolmens being in France for thousands of years, They've been put to all sorts of repurposes for all sorts of things. For example, bakeries, churches, warehouses, storage, places for animals. And we can see that they're kind of all over the place here. Let's zoom out in a few clicks here. And I want to zoom out. I could also use the mouse to zoom out. And let's take a look at this dolmen right here. We can see here's another dolmen, which is also pretty easy to access. It's near some dirt roads, which is pretty typical for France. And if I alt-click on that, we can see that this one has a capstone. It's a typically Angevin type dolmen, which means it's one of those which have the verticals and a big capstone. And the capstone measures 7 meters by 7 meters, so that's about 21 feet by 21 feet. So that's a pretty darn big capstone. This is a very large display here, very large rock here. And as we zoom around here, I'll turn off the Google satellite layer, so it's because Bing is faster right now than Google. All these tiles are being loaded in from the web. So we can see just how many dolmen there are all over France. Some of them are just all over the place. I mean, you can see how many of them there are. And let's take a look at one which is I've personally visited. It's on the way from Chartres to Tours, and it's one of the ones that's featured in the Manifold documentation. It's right here near Claye-sur-Loire. Actually, it's this one right here near Saint-Hilaire, La Gravelle. And as we zoom in there, we can see it on the road on the N10 between Chartres and Tours. It's right off this traffic circle, and this is about 30 seconds drive in the car. And the dolmen is right here. You can see this is pretty typical, by the way, for hobbyist locations where the dot is not quite exactly near where you'd expect it to be. Let's style that so that's colored in yellow, and let's make it 6 points. It's a little bit bigger. Here's the actual dolmen. The dolmen is right here by the side of a little rest area, and there's a little picnic area right here, a little picnic table. And that's the dolmen which is featured in this photograph. I actually took this photo once on a drive. It was a drive in the wintertime, and the photo was shot right from here. We're looking at this dolmen from right about here, and you can see this row of hedges in the background, and this is this tree that's overhanging here. This was shot in the wintertime, so the tree was not quite in full leaf. Anyway, you can create maps like this very easily, and drive all around France. And whenever you're driving to various places, like here in the south of France or somewhere more near Paris, up here you can visit dolmens that are in the air. There's just some spectacular dolmen which are right near tourist areas, and people drive by them all the time, not realizing they're there. And you can sort of fascinate your friends and by doing a little bit of tourism off the beaten track. It's very easy to do. And we can use free software like Viewer to arrange all this. Now, this project, as you can see, we've created in Viewer. We've done it very quickly. We can take screenshots from here and alt print screen to do a screenshot, and then save that in GIMP or Photoshop or Microsoft Paint, so we can create illustrations for websites. You can do all that with free software. Viewer is, as they say, viewer. It's not an editor, so it's a read-only thing. It is free. If you want to actually save this project or transfer this data into, transform it into different sources, for example, put it into different databases or store it into your Esri GDB or Esri ArcSDE data storage or GPackage or SQLite or any one of those other things, you'll need the full commercial package of Manifold Release 9, which is not expensive either. But a cool aspect of that is when you have Release 9, you only need one license in your entire organization or a company, and that person who can use that license can create projects which then thousands or even hundreds of thousands of people can download and use for free with Viewer. So download Viewer, give it a spin. Like I say, there's no registration, absolutely no strings attached. You can give out free copies to your friends. It's available in different languages, all that cool stuff. Download it, play with it, and enjoy. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and goodbye from Manifold Land. Well, that was fun. If you want to see more, visit us at www.manifold.net. As always, Manifold delivers the world's most advanced, highest quality spatial products for GIS and DBMS at a low price that you can afford. Once again, that's manifold.net. See you soon.